I've mentioned the idea of teaching in context a couple of other times, and it's one of the features of the current syllabus. In the original draft of this syllabus in 2006, it was taught in a number of schools, and the design at that stage was that everything should be taught in context. The whole 2 years would be taught in context. What do we mean by context? In the context of some real world example of chemistry. So you might do something about water oxygenation in the local creek, for example. I know my daughters did an EEI around winemaking. That's a fairly common one in chemistry in school. So those are contexts. What is the chemistry of wine like? What's the chemistry of creeks like? What's the chemistry of material science like? And so on. So these real world concepts. But it was discovered that we were doing too much work to try and hammer the content into the context. And it was really difficult to learn all of the content if you tried to do everything in context. It was a nice idea, but it wasn't really practical for the purposes of understanding chemistry richly. So it's been changed, and now in the current syllabus, you're required to teach at least one unit in context in year 11 and at least one unit in context in year 12. You can do more if you want to, and there are good textbooks out there that do pretty much the whole syllabus in context, probably because they were designed around the 2006 draft and then have continued. So you can do more in context if you want to. I would suggest not doing all of it though, for the exact reason that the draft didn't work, that there are issues with trying to do it. Yeah, it's kind of up to you how much you do or don't. In talking about EEIs, which I haven't yet, and when I do talk about EEIs, I hope to make the point that the goal of an EEI is not to have students learn new chemistry content, right? And I think that's a common misconception on the part of teachers, that they go, all right, we're going to do this unit, which is an EEI, which is 6 or 8 weeks, and at the end, the students will understand these particular chemistry concepts. Typically, because the students are doing different projects and have different interests and so on, you're not going to get good, solid, consistent, across the whole class understanding of the chemistry concept. So remember that there are multiple strands. There's the content, the skills, and the attitudes and values strand in the syllabus. And the EEI is really for the skills strand rather than the content strand. So my view is that they ought to understand the content, the relevant content first. Do a unit on the content first and then do an EEI in which they apply it and develop the skills. So that's, as I say, it's something that happens a lot in schools, that teachers are using the EEI to teach content, but my observation has been that that's not particularly effective. Sorry, I just thought I spotted a spelling mistake. Never mind, it's just an issue. On contexts, though, I think that's not the case. I think students will learn content when they're learning in context, but they'll also learn things that aren't in the syllabus, just by the nature of the context. So if you are doing winemaking, you will learn something about biology, for example, the various kinds of rusts, funguses, molds, mosses, other things that can grow in your fermenting substance, in addition to the yeast that you really want to be there to do the fermentation. So you'll learn something about something that's not on the chemistry syllabus but is relevant to the context. And that's true for every context. That's okay, but that shouldn't predominate. It should be about learning chemistry content. That's what it's for. So if you want to make sure that that testing and that you're doing the assessment of that testing, that learning, you're making sure that they can demonstrate what they know, and that the goal is that in the context you're learning, obviously it's connecting to the real world and that's motivating. Ideally it's motivating, it's not always, because sometimes the students just don't care about that context, but ideally that's motivating and engaging and interesting and demonstrates the usefulness of the thing. But the goal is to learn some chemistry in a contextual unit, and that's what should be predominating over learning incredibly esoteric details of the particular and specific context.